What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's Wednesday. That's right, it's Wednesday. We have a really wonderful show. It's myself and Kris Carr. Kris and Kris, 2 Ks. Deal with it. I don't know why wouldn't you deal with it? Stupid. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about today. There's a lot of news going on. So if you're brand new to the channel, you've never been here before, hit that subscribe button. Why? Because it's free. That's the easy. It's free. You get free nonsense. So, Joker, Part 2, Folie Deux, musical Deux. It is going to be rated R. That's what they say. That's a good thing, right? We'll discuss. Apes, Kingdom of the Planet of Apes, one of my most anticipated movies coming out so far. It's coming out in May. It's right around the corner. Well, we have the tracking numbers on that one. I'm excited to talk about that movie as I am so hyped for it. Another movie that I am hyped for that was in my anticipated list is Alex Garland's, it looks like his last directorial outing in quite a while, or he says he's retiring, but who knows? But Civil War, we found out a little bit about those factions and what those factions mean. Indiana Jones, I've been very clear on the fact that I was excited about that movie. It was my #1 most anticipated movie, but it was a ridiculous thing to spend $300+ million on that film, and it lost the studio a lot of money. We have the numbers of how much indeed. A movie that lost the studio money that didn't do very well was a movie called I Am Number 4. It was a very popular series or book or 1 or 2, I don't even know, but it was popular with the youngsters. And they're going to do a reboot. Is that a good idea? Our cut, and Disney running the DCEU, they're going to have a few, not running it, but they're going to have a few of the properties, the DCEU properties on Disney Plus. Heads are probably spinning from certain circles. That and more on today's episode of The Big Thing. It's me, it's Kris Carr, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. Let's do it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Big Thing. It's Wednesday, April 3rd, the year of our Lord. Kris Carr is here. Hi, Kris. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Kris?
Nice to see you, Kris and Kris.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny about that is that no one calls me Kris except people like in my family and people from home.
I'm just really presumptuous.
No, it's not that my wife hates that I will not let her call me that.
I feel that way about Chrissy.
Okay.
Like Ray Ora can call me Chrissy.
Does he?
He does, and it always just makes my heart just flutter. Where I'm like, "Thank you." Or I'll be like, "Chrissy, you having a good day? Do you want me to get that for you?" Anyone else does it because that's also my husband's drunk name for me.
Oh, and it'll piss you off.
Is Chrissy Denizio, my mother's maiden name? Where he's like, "Oh, you're going full Denizio. Chrissy's out." Oof.
and then you know, like,
yeah,
gloves off.
Well, we gotta have some water.
Yeah.
We gotta hydrate.
So for me, but my buddies will call me, and I don't say anything. My wife's like, "How come you let them call you?" It's like, because it was the thing back in the day. I'm like, I don't let new people do it.
That's fair.
Because I don't know what it is, and it's not. But it is interesting because before I met you, and I would be doing John's show and be like, "Oh, it's the other Kris with a K, right?"
Yeah.
And we had never met. It was so weird how it took us forever to meet.
It's still so weird to me that you met my husband at Cinemacon before we met each other.
Isn't it bizarre?
Yeah.
Are you going this year?
No.
I'm not either.
Yeah?
I was approved. I was ready. Brett and I were going. We had everything ready to go. Tickets, whole 9 yards. 2 things happened. One, the Civil War screening hit on the Monday of Cinemacon, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not missing that.
Yeah.
I really want to see that movie, and I know that it'll do well for the channel, and it's one of my most anticipated movies of the year. So I'll push it to Tuesday. And then this move's happening to New York.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have so much to do. I'm trying to find office space there. I'm trying to do all these different things. And I have another screening that popped up on Tuesday also. I can't remember what it was. But another movie. The Challengers.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So there's 2 movies now. Right around the corner. So there's 2 movies now that I really want to see. And I'm like, and I'm really bummed because there's great stuff they're going to show at Cinemacon this year, I think. So
Babes looks fun.
Which one is that?
That is the new Alana Glazer movie, I believe.
Okay.
That looks interesting. But with so many studios not really showing stuff, I don't have too much FOMO this time.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they have their presentations, and I think their full movie. Are they showing Fall Guy?
I'm not sure if they've said yes or no on
Okay.
that. I need to follow. Taylor Gonzalez is going.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm getting most of my
information
news.
for. Yeah, I think that's. I'll probably just wind up following certain peeps on Twitter like I always do to see what the news is, and if they drop any big trailers or anything, I'll just react to them here.
Exactly.
If that's the case.
Yeah.
And I did want to go, but it's not going to happen this year. It'll probably be next year.
Yeah. I'm mid-move too, so it was just the timing
It
does
just
not
didn't
make
work.
sense.
I didn't feel it was responsible, Kris.
Agreed.
Didn't feel it was
Look at us being grown-ups.
Hell yeah. All right, let's talk bullshit.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Joker, Folie, Deux, Part 2. This movie is another one. Talking about anticipated. It's one of my anticipated ones. I love it. I forget where you stood on the first one. Did you like the first one?
I didn't. I appreciate it for what it is.
love
But
it.
it was one of those movies of, oh, I know this person.
Yeah.
I know this situation. I don't need to see this movie again.
All right.
And I do wish they went a little harder in one of the lanes. If you want to talk about class welfare in Gotham, really talk about it. If you want to talk about mental health, really talk about it. I felt like some of those messages got diluted.
Little lost. Okay.
Yeah.
It was actually I dug it. It was I think it was my number one of the year that year. I really enjoyed it. I loved his performance.
Most people did.
Yeah, but well, Part 2, following the poster debut and ahead of next week's first trailer, Todd Phillips' Joker, Folie, Deux has landed an official rating for the MPA. The title has scored an unsurprising R rating, specifically for some strong violence, language throughout, some sexuality, and brief nudity. The original 2019 film landed its R rating for strong bloody violence, disturbing behavior, language, and brief sexual images. The film grossed $1 billion and landed Joaquin Phoenix the Best Actor Oscar. Phoenix returns here as Arthur Fleck here in a story that will reportedly unfold almost entirely with Gotham City's Arkham Asylum and will have musical elements. Lady Gaga, Zaza Beetz, Catherine Keener, Brendan Gleeson, and Jacob Laughlin co-star in the movie with Phillips once again directing from a script he wrote with Scott Silver. Film is considered a DC Elseworlds project and is not part of the new DCU universe. It's coming out on October 4th. This is a surprise to no one.
Yeah.
It should be rated R.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I fully agree.
Right, because the first one was a $1 billion R-rated movie. Now, that being said, in the same way that I didn't think Aquaman would hit $1 billion, in the same way that I didn't think the Marvels would hit $1 billion, I don't think this will hit $1 billion.
I have my doubts.
Yeah, October. However, October coming in is a good time to put this movie out in that season. It's got potential, and if it's really good, definitely has potential. I'm not giving it in the same way that I didn't think Dune 2 would make $1 billion, and it didn't. It's not easy. I call it like the $1 billion dart. Every studio is throwing that dart, but very few hit that bullseye. So, how do you feel about it?
I think there's the potential here, right? This movie was wildly popular. No matter how I feel about it, I can absolutely appreciate the value of that film.
Yeah.
It was incredibly well done. It was well acted. Did it feel reminiscent of other films I've seen? Yeah, but that happens with so many movies. This one just wasn't the movie for me. This isn't going to be my Fight Club poster, which is what I feel like this is for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It stays in that
A lot
lane.
of college dorm posters.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think you've got a whole bunch of different people, though, who will flock to this movie. You've got the people who loved that original Joker film who are going to go out and see this again. You got some people who maybe are more into musicals and going, hey, that element could be really interesting here. But then you also have just your diehard Batman fans, particularly people who are really into that Joker Harley dynamic. You know, Mad Love, an amazing, amazing comic. Also, its origins are from the animated series. That's how we first got
Is that
Harley.
what this is based on?
It's not necessarily. Okay. I'm not sure what this is based on, but the character of Harley Quinn first originated in the animated series. Okay. Then we got the graphic novel or the comic of that, and that's a character who has just gotten more and more popular over the years. You know, Margot Robbie recently talked about it too, about so great. We have this foundational character we can build on now. So you've got these kind of three factions of people who I think will go see it. And then you've got other folks like me who are going to see it regardless.
It's a good point.
But the way movies are working right now, particularly with superhero fare, I think you do have to go off the beaten path with these kinds of things.
Sure.
And our rating doesn't mean it's going to be great. It doesn't promise us just because
no, it means but they're going to stay consistent.
Exactly.
Yeah, even
We're
though
staying
they're
in that world.
Yes, and even if they're going off a little bit from doing with the musical, and it makes sense that if you're going to do musical elements, as they say in this report, to bring in Lady Gaga to do it.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's going to bring in a fan base all in itself. And if it's good. Now, the other thing that I think is unlikely, and has nothing to do with the talent involved, it is unlikely that Joaquin Phoenix could get nominated again for this performance.
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible, but it's unlikely.
But yeah,
because
slim margins.
and I think it's an unfair. The reason why I think it's unlikely is an unfair reason. I think it's because voters will say, we did that already.
Oh.
We did that already. We're not going to nominate the Joker again.
Sort of an Ian McKellen situation
I
in
think
Lord
so.
of the Rings? Okay.
I think so.
All right.
I hope I'm wrong because I always feel like if someone deserves it, they should be nominated for it. Like I still to this day, when everybody was losing their mind about Andrea Riseborough getting nominated, when most people hadn't seen the movie.
And that performance is so
It was incredible.
It's so good.
She absolutely. I went as far as to say, like, if she would have won, I would have been okay with it because she was so good in that role.
She's
but
a
nobody saw the
powerhouse.
movie, and everyone made a controversy of like her friends tweeting about it, which was the stupidest thing ever. And it's like she was great. Nobody saw the movie.
Yeah.
And I think that there's also probably one of the reasons a lot of people said, "No, we got her in there. We ain't voting for her."
Yeah.
And because they didn't want the controversy or whatever it might be. And this might be one of those things. And the performance might just be okay this time around. I don't know. But,
Sure.
But I'm sure it'll be great.
I think he'll do a really great job. And, Oscars are always pretty political anyway.
Yes.
So there could be those kinds of things factoring in there too.
Yeah. And the other side of it is what Todd Phillips is really going to bring to this. He clearly, as you mentioned, there was like a lot of King of Comedy that was in the based it off Scorsese. He's going to base it off something else this time around. And it was intentional that it was supposed to be other movies that you saw.
Yeah.
So I think it would be smart to do that again, right? And I think that majority of it, I think, is taking place in Arkham. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I do like that. I
Yeah.
love the kind of almost play-like structure that gives it then of one location. I
Yeah.
love when films do that too. I think it's great. And Arkham is just ripe with chaos.
Yes.
You can do so much in there. That also makes me believe we are getting some of that actual, doctor version of her as opposed to just Harley.
Right, that's
We're
a good
getting
call.
Harleen
Right,
Quinzel.
right.
And that's what I love. I love seeing how somebody manipulates her. This was one of my big problems with Suicide Squad.
Okay.
I hate the VAT story.
The Suicide Squad or
I hate-
Suicide Squad?
Suicide Squad. I
Okay, yeah.
hate the VAT story.
Yeah, yeah.
I hate her being pushed in, then all of a sudden, ooh, I'm a totally different person.
Right.
I love the psychological manipulation
Of turning it,
someone
yeah.
is so well versed in psychology and they're still prey to somebody like him. I love that, and I hope that's what we see
I
here.
think it's possible. The other thing that's crazy is that this year, because comic book movies are kind of like all over, right?
Yeah.
And when it looks like it's going like this, there's a couple of, and then it goes down. It's crazy to think that, and I want to make it clear that I do think this movie has the potential to make $1 billion because I think that you said it really well. That of all the people who want to go back and see it and get excited again to see Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker and to see this element, and if it's good, people will go back and see it.
Sure.
If it does hit $1 billion, I also think Deadpool's going to hit $1 billion. I think it'd be crazy that the two movies that hit $1 billion are the two rated R movies, and I think it will say a lot about the comic book movie culture that we want a little bit more edge to it. We want a little bit more of that, a little less of the cheesiness, a little less of the goofy humor. I'm not saying that it's unwarranted. Sometimes the jokes work. Like I thought the way that they use, like say Paul Rudd as Ant-Man in a movie like Endgame, comic relief, perfect.
Well done.
Well done. And I think that when it comes to other times, like I don't know what you thought about the Marvels, but I thought the humor in that missed everything that you tried to do.
I didn't think it was as bad as everyone made it out to be. I thought it had moments that were charming, and it did feel like fun, silly superhero fare, which I think there's a place for it. We are just also so conditioned right now, with Marvel in particular, for everything to connect, everything to
Yeah.
be huge, galactic stakes, so that when you do have a more contained story, we're already against it. But two, there were just certain comedic things. I didn't love the musical number.
I hated
anymore,
it.
but I could appreciate them trying something different.
See, the contained doesn't bother me. I like contained. I think that you're
I
going
think
to,
that's better sometimes.
I do too.
That's why I like these Elseworlds.
if you're going to go to the new Spider-Man movie, which is the big point of contention now apparently rumored between Feige and Sony, he wants to do more street level Spider-Man contained story, and they want to do the big multiverse story, which I think is a mistake. I think it should be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Cut back on your budget. Look at the two movies that just did very well in blockbuster fashion, and then we should transition into Indiana Jones here because this is relevant to this. Kung Fu Panda, which I think is now made, I think close to 100 million.
It's doing great.
It's doing great. The movie costs only 70 million to do this time because it is easily the worst out of the four. Easily. Doesn't have Angelina Jolie, doesn't have Seth Rogen, doesn't have a lot of the characters. They cost a lot of money, all those actors, and they cut costs, and the movie normally probably would have cost 200 and they would have lost money. But they made money because they cut costs. Smart. The other one, Godzilla versus Kong, or Godzilla and Kong. Movie is destroying at the box office right now. Cost $125 million to make. That's because the talent that they had, good, underpriced, or didn't, not high priced talent, I should say.
Yeah.
And
which is kind of criminal because I love Dan Stevens. This man needs to be a higher echelon in Hollywood.
but who's to say that the price point that he got, he wasn't happy with?
That's true.
He very well could have been happy with it.
But I
it
want
says,
that to be a household name.
Sure.
Sure, he did Beauty and the Beast, but God damn it, he's great.
He is great, and he was great, and he was good in the movie. But the movie isn't dependent on him. You put anybody else in there. You put Glenn Powell in that role, just as good.
Yeah.
You put anybody in there, and Dan did a great job. But you're going to watch a monkey with a power glove on a lizard.
Yeah.
And that is why people went to that movie and they said, you know what? Let's not spend a lot on anything else. Let's just spend all of our money on all the CGI.
On creating WWE Kaiju.
Yes,
which
suplexes,
is the best.
and it's the greatest. So that, and the movie, like people say, the movie, to me, that movie, I said it before I even saw it, Chris. I said, this is what I'm going to say about this film. If you go into this movie expecting Godzilla -1 and a complex story and really good characters and you care about the humans, you are going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
If you go into this movie to just watch monkeys and lizards fighting other things, you will be happy. And that's all that movie was.
Exactly. And isn't it a great time to just be a fan of monsters fighting? Because you can have that. You can have the deep, wonderful stories like Godzilla -1, like Monarch, and then you can go watch some monsters fucking wreck shop.
It's like it knows what it wants to be.
Yeah.
And the audience clearly wanted that. And there wasn't, I didn't see a lot of people, because I think that the only people I saw disappointed in the theater that I went, when I saw it on a critic screening and that I saw online, was anybody who tried to compare it to Godzilla -1 or were hoping that they were going to care about the story going on in the movie. I'm like, if you can't. And it's like, well, that's not right to do that. You can do both. Sure, you can, but that's not what they're doing.
Yeah.
They made it very clear. But it lends into the fact that both that movie and Kung Fu Panda spent their money wisely and didn't overspend and made money in doing so. And that's what they got to start doing for these movies. The superhero movies, these other movies contain stories. Like that's what we're talking about Spider-Man. You can contain that story, make it a lower budget instead of going for the $225 million or $300 million like another movie that we know. Dial of Destiny. Apparently, it lost Disney $134 million. A new report at Forbes indicates that in the wake of financial report disclosures by Disney, it seems that the James Mangles, Indiana Jones, and the Dial of Destiny lost a small fortune for the Mouse House. According to a movie economics expert, Caroline Reed, at the outlet, the production spent $134.2 million more on making this movie than it received in ticket sales. The filings reveal that with the post-production numbers in the movie's total budget came to an astonishing $387.2 million. Gross. The film ultimately ended up grossing $384 million worldwide at the box office, with the studio receiving about half of that, $192. Thanks to tax reimbursements from the British government for filming in the UK, the project knocked off around $61 million of its cost, bringing its net spending to around $326. Great. Forbes calculated the loss from there. Net spend minus Disney's box office share, but the figure is likely out as the statements do not show the marketing costs for the movie, nor the revenue generated from merchandise, disc, and digital sales.
I'm so glad that was brought up, because I was thinking about that. This is just production. This is just production. This has nothing to do with all the campaigning they did to get butts in seats.
This is almost a criminal offense.
It really is.
And I know that some people, pandemic stuff. The pandemic ain't going to cost you. It's going to cost money. It's going to cost things, and things went up because and Harrison Ford got injured and things moved around.
Sure. For
sure. But still, that is a criminal thing. And at the time of when it was thrown down on the desk, that it could potentially even get there, even if delays happen, because you're in a position at that point. Well, what happened when we were shooting Schmodown at Skybound? We were putting together budgets, and the conversation from Terry Lynn Troxel, who was my main producer, she would say, we have to factor in COVID costs. We have to factor in what happens if we need to move this because of COVID, if we have to do this.
That's smart.
This is a small production from the freaking Schmodown as opposed to Indiana Jones. And I don't want this to be a Kathleen Kennedy pile-on thing. But she is the head coach of the football team. She is the head coach. when the head coach keeps making plays, keep throwing. We have our running back. Keep throwing. And then it's interception, interception, interception. Let's throw again, interception. So what are you doing? That now it comes to the higher ups going, why is that coach still in there? Because everyone thought that after Indiana Jones, that was it. If Indiana Jones didn't perform, that was it. She's still there. Still making this. Now they're going to look at the Star Wars movies and see how they do. And she's got an opportunity with the Mandalorian and Grogu. Ridiculous title. So that
really good VO though.
They
should
so
clip
much.
that.
Thank you. I think that they will. That'll be what's coming out now. The Mandalorian and Grogu. You just have him make the little noise at the end of it. But that movie, and I've said this to exhaustion. The reason why Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, although I love Raiders, it's my favorite. The reason that Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade is seen by many as their favorite, even though it was bigger in scale for a movie that came out in 1989, it was simple. The ending of that movie is him going through he's in the cave and he's got to go through the test, the penitent man will pass and all that stuff. He's got to go through that. And then the main thing at the end is he goes in and he has a conversation with the wise old knight. And it's just a conversation with Harrison Ford and this older actor. And then Donovan drinks the thing and they have the CGI within, and he melts.
Yeah.
That's it. And it was effective as opposed to a $50 million plane battle in time with Romans or whatever they were, shooting things into the air and this big, ridiculous thing that was unnecessary.
Yeah.
It was too big.
I love time travel.
Yes.
I love it so much. It's one of my favorite tropes. And when that started happening, I just went, oh, no. Because it just wasn't executed well. So many things in that movie, just you'd see how it was going to be lined up and you go, yeah, okay, right. Right corner pocket. That's where the shot's going to go. And it wouldn't. They just made so many weird choices to ping it in there that did not happen. I mean, you brought up earlier that $1 million dart. It felt like spaghetti. It just felt like, let's just throw everything we've ever thought about Indiana Jones into a movie.
I know.
And happens.
It's so strange, too, because you talk about contained stories. You talk about a story. Like, Mangold is great at that. With whether it's Logan or
310 to Yuma.
310 to Yuma, Ford versus Ferrari. Like, let him tell that story. I am purely speculating, but I feel like they're like, hey, can you make this bigger? Can you do bigger with this? And he's like, sure. I can do bigger. I don't think that it was a matter. You're not going to bully James Mangold, but I think that they probably made him go bigger. Like he didn't need to go, especially him. He could have told such a great Indiana Jones story. And I don't take people who go, well, it's just an older franchise and nobody cares anymore. It still made $392 million. The movie would have gone back to what we were talking about in our earlier conversation. If that movie costs $80 million or $100 million, it makes money.
Yeah.
It makes money.
There's so many lovely moments in that film that could have been those beautiful small moments that Mangold handles so well because he does interpersonal conflict.
He does.
Just beautifully.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still one of the people who thinks that Patrick Stewart should have been nominated for Logan.
I'm with you. I do too.
Stellar in that.
Yes.
If you have those moments talking about no longer being with Marion, talking about the loss of Mutt. I mean, there are some really beautiful things you can do in that story that are so small scale that don't just need to be these kinds of like one-liners and wistful looks.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a really effective way of storytelling. Don't get me wrong. I love when you can tell a story just with one look. But those were some moments where I went, oh, if this is his swan song, can we maybe get a little more focus on this? Can we maybe get more focus on the loss on his friends?
There are some there are some nice moments in the movie, like the moment with Marion at the very end, best moment of the whole movie, right? The moment when he's in the cave with Phoebe Waller-Bridge and he's like, I'm not young anymore, and he's doing moments like that. And I think that you should have focused a little bit more on his adventure and a little more. I understand what they were trying to do with bringing it to her side of the story, but I think that they really should have focused more on his last adventure and what he was doing. And regardless, I think it was the overall, and it was before the strikes, and it seems like they're making a change here. But this overspending because of the $1 billion dart, and now maybe this will be used as an example. But in the case of Lucasfilm now has Mandalorian Grogu. They've got the Rey movie, and they've got the Filoni movie, and they've got the Mangold movie, right? Now, and apparently the Patty Jenkins movie again.
Yeah.
And apparently, supposedly, the Taika Waititi movie still. Yeah. But Do you think that they're going to be able to hold back, especially on that first movie, and spend less than 150? They should. If Pedro Pascal's not in the suit and it's just the freaking puppet, they should be able to spend 120 million on that movie.
They should.
Yeah.
Offer back points or do something else.
Yes.
I think one of the big things here too, and it's the big takeaway for me from this latest Indiana Jones, when you look at classic Star Wars, when you look at classic Indiana Jones, because I recently went and rewatched all those with my friends too, they still hold up.
You watched not Crystal Skull. Did you watch that one too?
We did watch Crystal Skull because Logan is a huge apologist, and I got to say, at the end of it, everyone did do okay, this doesn't suck as much as I thought, especially after seeing that last movie.
So I watched before the last one. I tried to watch Crystal Skull again, and I bailed after 15 minutes.
That's fair.
I do remember not hating the ending, so I probably have to go back and watch it. But I want to be clear: I didn't hate the last movie. I didn't hate it.
I did.
Yeah, but I understand.
Yeah, and if you didn't, it's fine.
But I understand. I didn't hate it, and I actually, because I felt like there was a lot in there that worked. I just thought it's too damn big, and because I came out of the theater and I'm going, this isn't that bad. It's like one of these, because people got killed at the film festival that it was at or whatever, and I was like, it's not that bad, and I don't think it's that bad. I just think that it was the wrong movie. I think it was the wrong movie.
I think so, and again, just when you have those older films, though, they live up because there is something so real. And I understand that practical effects are expensive, can be dangerous, especially with older actors too. Having your actual lead actor do stuff, you have somebody else pop in.
Yeah.
But when you get to live in those worlds, when those worlds feel real and tangible, your actors do better, your audience is more ingrained. It's like, follow me on this journey. It's like being in a really good D&D campaign. When you've got a great DM who really fulfills what that world is, you're like, hell yeah, I am doing this dungeon crawl. I am doing this. I know what this is about.
Yeah.
And then if you have somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, it is like shooting on the volume of just, I guess it's all just tennis balls and green screens.
It's a great point. And I think that I'm hoping that whether the example of Kong, the example of Kung Fu Panda, I hope that they start doing this more. What say you guys? Do you think that this is a major loss for Disney? It's really no arguing that it is. But what happens next? And do you think that Lucasfilm's going to take note of this and say we cannot spend the money on this? We just can't do it. We can't guarantee that Star Wars is going to make $1 billion. So what do you think? Go ahead and put your comments in there. Before we move on, I am so excited to tell you guys about both Vessi Footwear and Mack Weldon. As I've been talking about them all week, and you got to see the stuff that I got from Mack Weldon is so incredible. And Vessi, been wearing them, going back to New York, and there's gonna be a lot of rain, and now I got my Vessi Footwear. But I'll tell you about both of them right now. Vessi. So, John, I got these new shoes, and they have it's like rain wear. It's really, it's incredible. They sent it to me a while ago, but I'm so excited to tell them about them. For us, I want to tell you that Vessi has this innovative, it's like footwear, and it's designed for spring weather. It's great. So Stormburst Vessis are the ones that I really want to kind of emphasize, and they're your go-to for every setting, city streets to outdoor adventures, enhancing your style and activity with ease. So you can, whether it's snowy trails, wet streets, morning dew walk. So whether you're facing unexpected snow or slippery paths, it's so crucial in general to have these. I'm planning a move. I've talked about this, but it's been raining a lot in LA, and I've been wearing my Vessis everywhere. And you guys seen it. I've been wearing the one hoodie that I have that they sent me. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. I love these hoodies. I've worn it on in so many different videos. They have all-weather, all-occasion footwear from beach days to snowy commutes. They have so many different things. You should elevate your spring wardrobe when you travel with Vessi's Stormburst shoes. You can discover more at vessi.com/bigthing. Get your pair today and get an automatic 15% off your first purchase at checkout. And be ready to step out into style. It is great stuff. I love Vessi. I really enjoy Vessi. Let me tell you about Mack Weldon. Okay, so Mack Weldon, in general, it is a really wonderful company. Because a lot of times you want something both ways, right? Me, you know that I lost weight, but I can't lose weight and keep firing down pizza. Can't do it. Because we always think that looking sharp means that you got to have the starchy, the Oxfords and the stiff chinos rather than the effortless comfort. It is possible to have it both ways. They have light as air underwear to innovative anti-odor tees and versatile yet comfortable pants. It is so great what Mack Weldon is doing. They have a full range of clothes. And I'm telling you, Florida, browse this site. You're going to lose your minds. It's the best. I got, I'm always looking for the essentials in just like socks and underwear. And man, I got it. But then they sent me these pants. I have like, the t-shirts are so smooth. I wear them I'm just comfortably around the house, but I can also, if I'm going, I put on like a suit jacket the other day and I put it on with it. And then the pants, they fit perfectly. And I had some really comfortable sweatpants. Oh, really great. Okay, now peacocking. You guys are peacocking? That's for the birds. Now, some guys, you just want to go out there, you want to look good without calling attention to yourselves. Well, Mack Weldon Apparel gives you understated good looks for understated confidence. It's not flashy, just classic, always in style and made from the world's most comfortable performance materials. What that means usually, the performance fabric, usually means that clothes that look or feel techy or shiny, well, these are designed to fit your style and demands of modern life. So I just, I can't even tell you, like this underwear is really comfortable. The sweatpants for me, I was wearing them the other day and I just I like ones that just feel like I could go out, whether I'm just walking the dog, but I don't feel like, oh my God, people are looking at me. Like, what am I wearing right now? We're just walking around the house in this, but it's stylish, man. I love it. Get timeless looks with modern comfort from Mack Weldon, but you got to go to MackWeldon.com. You can get 20% off, which is pretty great, off your first order, but you got to use that code BIGTHING. So head on over to MackWeldon.com and use that code BIGTHING. All right, thank you to our friends over at Mack Weldon and Vessi Footwear. I mention it all the time, and I get DMs from you. It usually happens on the weekends, and I'm sure I'm going to get some for WrestleMania weekend, but I always get it. It's like, hey, I want to try one of the sponsors. Which ones do you recommend? And then I do, and you guys try them out, and you always DM me and let me know. Please do that. You get yourself something wonderful, and you're supporting the show. So I've always put the links in the description, and I always pin it as the first comment. So if you want to find them out, that's how you can support the show. All right, we got some more to talk about. Let's go with this one. I thought this was a very, very interesting story, Chris. This is from Dark Horizons. 3 DCEU films are coming to Disney Plus. Seems like they're going to start airing Red Sox games on the Yankees network. Disney Plus has posted a trailer for what's coming to its combined Disney Plus and Hulu service in April, and within that reel, there is a surprise. It seems that the home of Marvel is getting 3 films from the DCEU, specifically Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman and the 2 Shazam films. The DCEU films previously showed up on Netflix, and Warner Brothers. Discovery CEO David Zoloft, as I call him, has previously hinted they could go elsewhere after their time on Netflix has ended. Zoloft said at the time that licensing out to others are generally for short runs of a few months, as opposed to Max, where they have a more permanent home. Someone might have it for 3 months or 6 months. We always have those movies, and we have the complete set of all those movies. The days of a studio not allowing its content to stream on a rival's platform are over. That could soon be changing again, too, as a legal restriction that prevents Warner Brothers Discovery from merging or acquiring more studios expires this month. Okay, so this is shocking, obviously, that DCU, but when you go through everything that went down during the strikes and how much money the studios had to fork over, rightfully so, to creators, writers, directors, actors, everybody, they had to find a way to make more money. As they said, if you try to have everything on your platform and everybody's not subscribed to your platform, you're going to lose money. When you have revenue or you have content that you can lend out and make some cash on. Because remember when we were back in the day, HBO would have a movie and then they would lose it for a little bit and then Showtime would get it.
Exactly.
And
it's like a little carousel.
Yes. And it is the right move to have. It's weird to see Wonder Woman on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It's weird, but it makes sense. And as Zoloft says, that he's also, you can still get all those movies on Max. You can so you still have that, but we're lending them out to people sometimes 3 months, 4 months. I think it's the right play.
I mean, somewhere someone is grabbing their DC versus Marvel omnibus and is like, soon I'll get the crossover I deserve.
Yeah, that'll never happen. That'll never happen.
It won't, but I wish it would. This does make sense. You know, they're loaning out the IP, and this is Zaslav's move right now, is just, he'll buy my shit. Who can take it?
Yes.
Do you want some of it? Do you want it?
He doesn't care.
He's just licensing out all willy-nilly.
Yeah.
And there's certainly purists about where media should live.
Yeah.
That's going to happen, and you are fully entitled to have that opinion. But if we were talking about the business aspect of it, I get it as a money-making move. If you're just sitting on IP and you're only relying on your subscribers to do that and watch that, you got to loan it out elsewhere so you can get that money.
You have to. And it's just because there's just too many streaming services out there. And if, like, look at Paramount, right? Like, I always use Paramount as kind of the beating up platform, because out of all the streamers, and I like Paramount Plus, but out of all the streamers right now, I think that they are probably struggling the most as compared to like Apple, Netflix, Disney, Max. You don't ever put them as the top.
Absolutely.
You got to license out your movies.
You do.
That's
You
your
really
bread
do.
and butter.
Well, because most people can't afford all these streaming services. Like, how many streamers are you up to right now?
Well, I mean, so I have mostly all of them, but I'm able to, write it up for work.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're obviously not in the norm,
Right.
but I have to have HBO for my job.
Right.
But I think I'm at 5 or 6, and that is also with, full disclosure, sharing with me going,
Right.
hey, how about I'll get your Paramount Plus, but I'll give you my Hulu,
Right,
or I'll do
right.
this. It's just me moving cups around at all times to try to trick the streamers. You can't afford it if you're just an average person,
No,
too, who doesn't
too much.
need this.
No.
It's such an unnecessary cost that keeps going up.
And all the prices. Look at Netflix. Netflix is in a position that they're going to keep changing their prices forever, and everybody's going to keep paying it.
Yeah.
Like, they just went up again. They're going to keep changing their prices. People will do the same thing every time. Shake fist and still watch Stranger Things.
When they cracked down on password sharing and everyone talked about how they were going to get rid of their Netflix,
No one got rid of it.
No one did. I had 2 people on mine, which ahead of time it was like, all right, Cowboy, that's my brother. It's like, Cowboy, hey, this is off. You can't use this anymore. My other friend, hey, this is off. And they were like, oh, I'm not going to get it. Oh man, but that show does look good. Or I really do want to watch 3 Body Problems, so I guess I'll get it. But then I'll cancel it. Well, you're just going to subscribe again and go through this each time you want to watch a show.
I know. Did you watch 3 Body Problem?
Yes.
So I'm 4.5 episodes in.
Okay, I'm on episode 6.
Okay.
So I'm not completely finished, but
How many are there?
8.
8. Okay, good. That's good to know. I'm really into it.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm really into it.
I'm really excited to read the book after this because
Okay.
I heard it was one of those, this is not something you can adapt, but that's kind of what those guys do. They take the unadaptable and mess around with it.
Yeah, and I'm really enjoying it. There was something that happened in episode 3 that I didn't like at all.
Oh, okay.
But maybe it changes. I don't know, but I didn't like it at all. Not because it was a creative decision. I didn't like it. I don't want. I'll tell.
We'll talk off mic. But yeah, now I'm like, what was it?
I didn't like it.
I think I know what it is.
Yeah, I'll tell.
Okay.
I'll tell you afterwards. But but I do enjoy the show, and I still, because so for a very long time on Schmoes, the ongoing joke was I had not seen John Carpenter's The Thing. I had never seen it. So for years on the show, on the Schmoes No Live show, we would talk about, okay, I'm going to watch it. I didn't see it. I'm going to watch it. I didn't see it. And it became like a thing, like this. You was never going to see the movie. So when I started this channel, I finally saw it after years and years and years. Shogun is becoming that now.
Oh, really?
I know. I still haven't seen it yet.
I've only seen 3 episodes
And you
of
love
that. I really love it,
Everybody
but it
does.
is intense.
I know. I'm considering doing like an actual just watching it and doing it on the channel and watching it.
It's really good and it's worth it. But
I heard.
Because we're in a similar
Yes.
space right now, that is not a show that you get to pack up your boxes to. Because I started trying to multitask and then was like, wait,
No,
what?
you got to like lock into it. That's why I'm considering doing it like on the channel, because then I have to like just zone into it and check it out.
It's so good.
Yeah, that's what everybody says, and it is becoming. I don't want it to become the next thing. It's a show that I want to see like today, but I want to finish 3 Body Problem.
Yeah.
And then I started. And then because it's WrestleMania weekend, so I start watching like documentaries on wrestling, and I watched Raw, which has been. So you and I are talking off air. So my relationship with wrestling, for people who do or don't know, you might not even know this. So I was a massive fan growing up with Macho Man and Hogan and the Warrior and all that. Took a break after a bit and then got back into it during the Attitude Era with The Rock and Stone Cold. And And then in 2001, I began working for them. I was a writer for the WWE.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Very briefly, but nonetheless, it was like college, like just a crazy, intense, just working at the circus, you're just in it. You're just in it. And then because of that, I saw how the sausages were made, and I was done. And I had stopped watching wrestling for 15 years. And then I started the Movie Trivia Schmodown, and there's a heavy wrestling element to that from the beginning, contrary to many people's belief. But there was always a wrestling element to it. And I started watching the WWE Network at that time because I was like, I want to see what's going on now. And what they did at that time is you had access to everything. So I started going down the rabbit hole and falling back in love with what I did. But in between that time from 2016 to like last year, product was okay. It was just, or a year and a half ago, just okay. And I would just tune into Raw and SmackDown here and there, kind of tune into it. But I'd watch the events because they were on Peacock for free.
Yeah.
So
sole reason why I have that streamer.
Yeah. And I'd go in and I'd watch just the events. But after Old Man Creepy was gone, then it was Triple H really took over, and all of these things are happening now where it's the story's really good.
It's sweaty soaps.
But they're really telling good stories, and they've changed up how they're shooting it. Mm-hmm. They're changing up like the shots that they're taking inside of Raw and SmackDown. And I mean, now instead of fast forwarding all the way through, I am just getting to like the main event of the night. I'm watching each story and getting invested. This card, this WrestleMania 40 card, is the best card in wrestling 15, 20 years, easily. And so I've been kind of if I'm caught up on if I've missed a Raw or SmackDown before I catch up on Three Body Problem or anything too, because we're at WrestleMania, I want to see what kind of story's going on. I've been catching up with that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So are you going to watch WrestleMania this weekend?
I am. I'm very excited because I am one of the casual events watchers. Yeah. I didn't get into wrestling till the pandemic.
Oh. I think you told me that.
Yeah, my friends started having these kind of watch parties over Zoom and stuff, and we started doing it that way.
I have to show you something. Go ahead. Please,
I just love them so much. I think the storylines are fascinating. I love seeing the Edge pop up in more stuff too. I love him.
Oh yeah, he's in AEW right now. Yeah,
wonderful. Yeah. Seeing him on Percy Jackson just like made my heart soar.
Yeah.
He did a great job. He was having so much goddamn fun. I love him.
He really was.
But it's been so fun to get into this because I was one of those people too. I'm not a big sports person.
Okay.
And I had things like, this is going to sound cheesy, but Ted Lasso and Welcome to Wrexham totally changed my mind about sports. I grew up in the South. South treats sports like religion.
Yes.
And I was not coordinated enough to be a part of that religion. I was a theater kid. But I understood and appreciated how that affects community. And with wrestling, I really love just how you can have these really heartfelt stories with really traditionally masculine men or really strong women, and it's still heartfelt and heartbreaking.
Especially now, like this story with Cody Rhodes and what they're telling to this episode. And if it gets flagged, I'm just go and watch. I'll link to it. But basically, what I just showed Chris was when I did that scene with The Rock, which is hilarious how that all came about. Too.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, it's hilarious. But I've told this story so many different times. But for the new listeners that didn't know, so that about a year later, about that, it's right when The Rock was getting into Hollywood. And he was at this party. It was UTA at the time, and there was this big party, and so he was there. And my buddy, this guy Rick, he was like, "Hey, Dwayne's here. You worked with him, right?" I was like, "Yeah, we did a scene together." And me too. He's like, "You think he'd remember you?" I'm like, "I don't know. It was like last year, maybe." And so he walks over to him. He's like, "This guy used to work with you." And The Rock was in the middle of a conversation, and he goes, "Who did?" And he's like, "Okay, yeah." And he sat down and talked to me for a while. We were talking for a while, and then we were just talking. We talked about the scene, and I broke down the scene, what he did, and everything. He's like, "Yeah, I think I remember." And we were just bullshitting. And then he's like, "It was great talking to you." So then the whole party lasted for the entire night. He was there the whole night. 2 a.m, we're leaving, and I see him. I'm like, "Dwayne, good talking." He's like, "Dude, it was great talking to you." He's like, "What was your name again?" And I go, "It's crazy." He's like, And I go, "You son of a bitch, you got me again." And he started laughing. So it was great. He remembered it. He's got like an elephant memory. But he's doing great stuff right now in the with WWE. Yeah, this WrestleMania is gonna be crazy. So speaking of that, WrestleMania, the preview special. I'm so excited for this Friday. This Friday is going to be a big WrestleMania preview special. I have myself and Chris Van Vliet on the entire episode, and then we have special guests going virtually, Kathy Kelly, and she's going to be talking about how she brought back the Slammies. So Friday is a full big thing WrestleMania preview special. So enjoy. We're gonna really break it down. I'm excited to have Kris on. Kris is the best. Okay, let's move to. Well, before we move on, let me tell you guys real quick about both Nutrafol and Rhone, two other sponsors that I'm absolutely in love with, and I'll tell you about them right now. All right, I love getting you guys good deals, and I got it. Rhone. There's so much pain in trying to find what to wear, whether it's uncomfortable, it's tight, it's never your size, there's difficulty putting pieces together when all the fabrics are different textures. I know it happens to me all the time. You want to look good without having to think about it. Well, that's where Rhone comes in. They stepped up to the challenge, everybody. They got the commuter collection. It's comfortable, it's breathable, and it's a versatile set of products known to man. They have products for every occasion, whether it's the most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos, blazers. They look great as individual pieces, and they work seamlessly together. Rhone's signature 4-way stretch fabric, it's breathable, it's flexible, and it works everywhere from your commute to work to the 19th hole. It's time for unparalleled confidence without all the hassle. Rhone's commuter collection features wrinkle release technology, and it is 100% machine washable, looking good. Is that easy? I'm telling you, I love this. They sent me some of this stuff, guys, and first of all, they have the kind of just relaxing casual stuff, but I needed a good pair of pants to go with my suit, and my goodness, I got some for me. I got some for Riley. We're looking slick. It is so great. The commuter collection is easy to care for also, by the way, and it stays fresh and it's odor free. Just head over to rhone.com/bigthing. Use that promo code BIGTHING. Save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to rhone.com/bigthing. Use that code BIGTHING. It's time to find your corner office comfort. Don't be embarrassed. Don't do it. Listen, did you know that 80% of men will experience hair thinning in their lifetime? It's normal, guys. But it doesn't have to be your fate. You can get ahead of thinning with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural, science-backed ingredients. Their drug-free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. Go to Nutrafol.com/men to take their hair wealth wellness quiz. Identify causes of your thinning hair, and Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair health through whole body wellness. It works. In a clinical study, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months taking Nutrafol men's hair growth supplements. Everybody feels this way as you're getting older. You're like, oh man, am I the only one? Why is this happening to me? This and that. We're in an age now where you can get it helped. You can get it fixed. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men, but you have to enter that promo code BIGTHING. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men. Nutrafol.com/men and enter that code BIGTHING. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code BIGTHING. All right, thanks to our friends over at Nutrafol and Rhone. As I mention each and every time, if you want to help out the show, you have the means to do so. Please consider one of our sponsors. I link every sponsor we have in the description, and I always pin it on the top of the comments. Okay, next one. Let's talk about Apes on Horses. Love this franchise, and I'm so excited. The Apes are back. The Apes are tracking for $54 to $61 million opening. The box office seems to love simians right now. Following the past weekend's success of Godzilla and Kong the New Empire, the earliest projections have come in for May's launch of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and it's bananas. Oh, I see what they did there.
Well done.
The film, which opens on May 10th, is on track for a domestic opening weekend of $54 to $61 million, according to tracking services Quorum. That puts it on par with some of the other entries in the series, with Rise of the Planet of the Apes debuting at 54.8 and War coming in at 56.3. It's behind both the middle entry in the trilogy, the acclaimed Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which took 72.6 in its debut, and Tim Burton's 2001 remake was also strong at 68.5. In addition, it's indicated that men are going to turn out big for the film, with interest numbers higher for this last summer's new Mission Impossible and Transformers entries. The interest isn't a surprise, as Apes had the second most watched Super Bowl movie trailer 24 hours after the game, behind only Deadpool and Wolverine. The box office boost will be needed, as April is lean on openings, with debuts for films like Monkey Man, Civil War, The First Omen, Challengers, Unsung Heroes, Abigail, and The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, all expected to be under $20 million each, with many around half of that. Well, yeah, and it's also the summer season starts in May. Continuing on, by the way, with a little more Ape stories here. There's a new listing by AMC indicating that Wes Ball's upcoming Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is already set to break a new franchise record as far as runtime. The film is reportedly set to clock in at 145. That's long, making it the longest Apes film to date. It beats the recent trilogy, which came in at 105 for Rise of the Planet of the Apes in 2011, 130 for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes in 2014, and 140 for War of the Planet of the Apes in 2017. The original was the longest of the old film saga, and it came in at just 112. The new film jumps 3 centuries into the future as the apes grapple with control of the planet, while humans have registered a feral state. In the years since, some groups have never heard of Caesar, while others have contorted his teaching to build burgeoning empires. In this setting, one ape leader begins to enslave other groups in an effort to find leftover human technology. At the same time, another ape, who watched his clan be taken, embarks on a journey to find freedom, with a young human woman becoming key to his quest. She has plans of her own, though. I love the story.
Yes.
And I love the idea, but hate it at the same time that not everybody knows about Caesar.
I know.
They all should know about
They
Caesar.
should.
But I like that they don't. It's like
That
okay.
creates good conflict.
It does. It's like you've got the people like, are you kidding? This is the guy. We wouldn't be here without this guy. And then the other people, I don't know who that is. Like,
That makes so much sense,
so
though,
much
just
sense.
for how ideological stances move through history, though. If this is 3 centuries later, it's going to be warped, it's going to be contorted, it's going to be used to fit agendas. Oh,
and I love
love
the fact that it's 3 centuries later.
Yeah.
It gives you, it's why, and I hate to keep bringing back things to Star Wars and Lucasfilm, but it's like, that's why I'm glad that they're taking this shot with Acolyte and go back 100 years. Get the hell out of the same era. Go and explore new things, whether it's 200-300 years after Episode 9 or 1,000 years before Episode 1, right?
exactly.
And that's what they're doing here, centuries afterwards. And the question is, and if this movie does well, and I think the answer is yes, you tell me, but I think that if this movie does well, you do a second one, and then the third one is ultimately a remake of the first movie, because they set up the Charlton Heston thing flying towards the space, and you can do a remake of it. And I think at that point, people would understand, okay, yeah, I want to see a remake with the way that they've done this technology. Do you think that's possible?
I think so. I think that IP like this lends itself to that cyclical nature, too, if done well.
Right.
And I think that's a payoff that would work really nicely, again, if all of these movies fire on all cylinders. I like that, though.
The opening looks good. I mean, the opening looks good for them, 54. And
Yeah,
what they
it's
didn't
strong.
say, as they mentioned how they referenced Kong and Godzilla, that movie overperformed. It overperforms. So tracking doesn't always hit exactly. This movie could overperform in the same way, because I think that it comes out a week after The Fall Guy or 2 weeks after The Fall Guy.
Okay.
Which I think if that, maybe, let me see to double check that for sure. So The Fall Guy comes out May 3rd. Kingdom is the next week, May 10th. So I don't think there'll be a lot of competition with Fall Guy after week 1. And then they've got If, which comes out on May 17th. If will capture the families, but I don't necessarily know how much of a competition it'll have with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And then Furiosa comes out May 24th. That's its biggest competition, I think. So it's got a shot. It's got a shot to do really well.
Absolutely.
I'm excited for it.
If you're one of those people who wants monster stories that also tell a story about humans, this is your melding of those things.
Yes, this is you're exactly right. This is a perfect example. Now, what I'll say before I go to the out of the theater reaction, if you go to this movie expecting just a bunch of apes fighting and it's just gonna be big spectacle and that's all you're gonna get, you're gonna be disappointed. If you're going to this movie because you're looking for a story with heart, to watch the apes actually talking and being in there, it was most people are going to go for it, but that's what they're going to deliver on. But if they don't deliver on that, then people have the right to be disappointed because the movie has set it up to do that in the past.
Exactly. We have the promise of looking at what power does,
Yes.
regardless of your species, of how it will absolutely corrupt, which is fabulous and interesting. We get to have political factions. We get to have interspecies racism, it sounds like, too, of enslaving your own people. And I think it's so smart, like you were saying, to move this into the far future, because with other properties, when you keep staying in that same cycle, everything comes very Dickensian. All characters know each other, and your world is so small.
Yes.
When you expand like this, when you have this IP that is so rich and vast, you've got so much walk room. You have a huge runway to do whatever you want.
And we did it already. We got to the point where it looks like the humans are in bad shape. They ended the last movie, and you're like, oh, they're in bad shape. And what are we're gonna look at? Oh, this is how they set up their communities. No, we got it. We understood it. We got into the place where it's going to be Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and here we go. That king looks scary, by the way.
Yeah,
that crown and everything too. What a wonderful day! Very Mad Maxian too, by the way.
It is. There's a gladiatorial aspect to it that's really rad.
Really good. All right, how you guys feeling about it? Is Apes one of your anticipated ones? Have you liked the trailers thus far? What say you? Make sure you let your voices be known. Put those comments in there. Okay, I got another one. Here it is. I want to stick with anticipated films. This Civil War movie is getting more and more on my hype list, especially now that Alex Garland's might be his last one. This is something about the Civil War film poster, and it explains like what the alliances are in this movie. Distributor A24 has released a new image showcasing just how the United States has become divided in Alex Garland's upcoming Civil War movie. The film follows a journalist traveling with the military in a dystopian, near-future America torn apart by conflict. They are traveling with the military to make it to Washington, D.C. before one of the opposing armies makes it there first. Now the sides of those conflicts have been revealed in a map. On the one hand, there's the Western forces in which California and Texas are united.
That makes no sense.
No way.
As a Texan, how?
No way. But again, this shows that this is not going to be. We'll explain in a second. Then there's the Florida Alliance, which consists of Florida, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and more in the southeast. That makes sense. Then there's the New People's Army, which is much of the Pacific Northwest and northern states, including Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, Minnesota, Montana, Wyoming, and the Dakotas. Okay. Finally, there's the biggest grouping with the Loyalist states running from Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado in the west through most of the entire northeast of the country. So a lot of that makes sense. The only reason is just because of how the politics are so divided in both Texas and California. But it does go, because I saw a lot of comments of people going, well, what side is he going to take? Is he going to take a far left side? Is he going to take a far right side? What is Alex Garland trying to say here? And he has made it very clear he doesn't take a stance. And what people have said with this movie is it doesn't take a stance. So that to me is a smart way to go. You can't win. You can't win if you take a side.
No. Well, and Kirsten Dunst was talking about how, some people have talked about this movie could spark more issues within our own country because of how the movie's going to play it out or what's going to happen. And she talks about how this is such a anti-war piece, how this is really talking about how things happen when a country is so divided, how that all manifests. My hope is that it's about journalistic integrity, honestly, of reporting on these stories without having who do you personally think is right, who do you personally think is wrong, or at least you can have that stance, but you still have to report on news, because right now news is infotainment.
Oh yeah, it is.
Everything is a clickbait article.
Yeah.
Everything is a headline that's
Opinion
meant
piece.
to make you just really aggravated before you get details.
Yeah.
And there's no room for opinions. In fact, you can make an opinion based on facts. And I hope that that's the approach they take here, because this is really interesting stuff.
Super interesting stuff, and I'm so hyped for this movie. But it's also, what the hell happened in the making of this movie to now that Alex Garland goes, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Because he said he fell out of love with the filmmaking.
It's very intriguing.
What the hell happened? Was it an A24 thing? Was it a like what happened to where he's just like, I don't want to do this anymore? And that's someone brought this up in one of the live streams, is that people thought I loved doing Collider Live for as long as I hated it. I felt I just couldn't stand it. And people are looking on the outside going, oh, people must be loving what they're doing. he might have done a great job on this one. This might be his masterpiece.
Sure.
And then he does the Jordan, walks off the court. But I'm going to be bummed that this movie's as good as everyone says it is, and then we don't get to see any more Alex Garland movies. The question is also, a lot of times people say, I'm retired. And they're like, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. Farewell tour, and then they're back.
Right.
We could have that. This could be his Cher moment where we're going to get 5 more films.
That would be good.
I'd like that. I'd like that a lot.
I'm pumped.
It is really, it's loaded language, too, to say you fell out of love with something.
Yeah.
That's what's so intriguing about that statement.
What happened?
Ooh, how bad was this process? Or is it just that you've told the stories that you want to tell? Because that can happen, too, of just, I've done what I've done in this medium.
Or you might be exhausted. This is also not a light movie. It's like,
it's intense.
Yeah, anytime you're just talking, I was just talking to David Dalsmalchian a little while ago. And when you got to put yourself, as an actor, when you're putting yourself in a certain headspace, and then you're like, whoa, I just come out of like, I don't know how much I gotta relax. I gotta take this. I just put myself in that kind of mindset.
He does that so always too. His roles are so
David,
intense.
David does. He's the best. I love David Dalsmalchian. But Alex Garland is in this world, in this dark dystopian world, for God knows how long, from the prep to leading to post to all of it.
That doesn't feel too far off from our own, if we're being honest.
I know. And he's got to deal with all that, and then he's got to deal with the pushback of it and people coming after him. You haven't even seen the movie yet. That was the stupidest thing that I saw, was that people were raving about the movie and other critics were bashing on other critics for liking it, and they hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, if you've seen the movie and you don't agree with somebody, that's fine. What do you even seen the movie? Be quiet until you see it. And this was on my most anticipated list. It probably, if I did the list again, it'd probably be higher on my list. I'm going to see it on Tuesday, I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So cannot wait to see it. Cannot wait. How about you guys, though? What do you think? Is this a movie that you're super pumped for? Are you kind of on the fence about it, waiting to see what people think about it? What say you? All right, let's do one more story. Okay, so I am number 4. I remember seeing this movie with Ellis back in the day, and people were hyped about it at the time because it was a popular young adult novel, and that's when they had that whole young adult craze back then after Twilight. A new adaptation of James Frey and Joby Hughes' 2010 young adult novel, I Am Number 4, is reportedly in early development. Frey was recently out promoting his work on the just-finished second season of DreamWorks Animation's Fright Crew. And SFF Gazette asked him if anything was happening with the I Am Number 4 IP, and this is what Frey said. Neil Moritz is producing a version of it that was written by the original writers and who they just made Wednesday. So we are in process on it, and I can't say whether it'll actually get made or not. But I have great people that I'm working on with it who are trying to make it happen for sure. Now, the story follows a teenage alien named John Smith, who was one of 9 children sent to Earth to escape invading Mogordians who are hunting down their race. The teen has also developed powers. The 9 aliens can be only killed in sequence, with the first 3 already dead, leading to Smith being the next target. The property was adapted into a 2011 film starring Alex Pettyfer, Timothy Olyphant, Teresa Palmer, and Kevin Durant. That version was directed by DJ Caruso, produced by Michael Bay, and penned by Alfred Goh, Miles Millar, and Marty Noxon. The film scored negative reviews, but it did make $150 million from a reported $50 million budget. What form this new version will take isn't clear, but it's likely aiming to replicate the success that Disney had with Percy Jackson and Olympians TV series. That's what I was going to say. If you're going to do this, you got to do a TV show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's 7 books in the entire series.
Yes.
That's why you're coming back to this IP, first of all.
You have to.
All already there.
It's your TV show. This is what drives... Again, if I'm going to go back to Star Wars and Lucasfilm, you have so many novels. Those novels up there that I have.
Oh, nice.
There are so many of those novels that you could turn into television shows. And they're written already. They're written. And you look, we just have a 3-body problem. Like these things that are adapted from these books, you have more time to really develop, marinate, whether it's a Game of Thrones, you have time to do that. This is more of a reason to try to look at Harry Potter. I mean, they're making Harry Potter into a damn TV series. That is smart. I know some people push back on, we don't need to remake it. They have them as movies. Let's see them as a TV show, and the stuff that they have to cut for movies, now you can put them in the TV show.
Which people got mad about at the time.
Right.
Why don't we have any of Hermione's stuff about Spew? Why don't we have any of these other B storylines? Because there's no time.
There's no time.
Film.
2 hours and 40 minutes, some of these movies, and you still don't. I remember I had read the first 3 or 4 novels of Harry Potter. And I remember feeling that way. I'm like, I wish they wouldn't have cut that, but I get it. Now there's no excuse. You've got, if you're going to have, if book 1 is going to be 8 episodes, put it all in there. See how you do. So I think this makes a lot of sense for them to do. If you have this book, if it's a popular IP, and especially, look, I do a show every Tuesday about UAPs and the possibility of NHI and all that stuff. 3-body problem. With aliens right now, you can do a series like this, and you do more of a young adult thing, but you do it, you really put the detail into it. This is a no-brainer to me.
Exactly. It's all about execution.
Yeah.
That's all it comes down to. And I say that's all it comes down to, like that's easy.
But it is.
If you give yourself the time, if you put the care in, if you allow these stories to have the breathing room that they need, and you don't just rush it so it's all just flash and trash, all action, all like none of the actual depth and heart that you have in a series that's 7 books long. I mean, you can have a really cool story if you just put in that care.
And don't be afraid to adapt the actual material. Sure, make your changes, but don't lose the core. I didn't see The Last Airbender. I didn't see the new series.
Okay.
But everything that I heard, did you see it?
I did.
Okay. So
I'm a diehard
okay,
fan.
so
Nickelodeon gave me a steel book. I love them.
So I don't know your thoughts on it yet. So I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and then I want to see if you agree or disagree.
Let's go.
What I've heard so far about this show is that they take a lot of turns away from the source material, right? And that there's a lot of hardcore Airbender fans that did not like what they did, the majority of them. But Steph Sabra, who's also on this show, is a hardcore fan and liked the changes and the stuff that they did and thought it was a good way to bring it to television. My thought process on it is I still don't understand when you look at something like Last of Us, where they took some liberties, but for the most part, they stuck pretty true to the story that was told in the game. I would play the game while I was watching the series. I would go a week, and I would get to a point that it was like, okay, I don't want to get spoiled.
Jonathan Blanco was doing that too.
Okay, and I would do that, and then I would stop. And I was satisfied because I was like, they changed some things, but for the most part, they left it. There's only one thing I was like, I wish they would have left that in there a little bit more, but whatever. And so I felt like Airbender made a lot, from what I saw from audience, is that they made a lot of changes that they didn't need to, and they could have stuck to the core. Now, as a hardcore fan, where were you?
I didn't hate this by any means. I wasn't fully in love with it. I think for the most part, their cast is phenomenal. I think they really nailed getting these kids in here, particularly the actor who's playing Sokka. He's wonderful. He's amazing. There were certain character things that I didn't love, but I went,
changes.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
For television, for live action, I understand. Avatar Season 1 does have a lot of filter in that first book. There's a lot of filler in there. But there's also a lot of fun. And I think the fun is really, really important, particularly to Avatar Aang.
Okay.
He's a sweet, fun kid who believes the best in everybody. He sees good in every person. Everyone, there's no strangers. There's only friends he has not made.
Yeah.
And I think we lost a little of that element. We felt the burden of being the Avatar a little too quickly, or maybe a little too intensely. And there's a couple just character things that if you didn't watch the cartoon, I don't think will bother you in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
But there were just a few choices with certain characters. Boomy, a few things with some Fire Nation people, a couple things I'm trying to be as vague as possible in case anyone hasn't watched this show. But there's just a couple character tweaks and timeline things that I went, oh, well, I don't love that choice.
Right.
But I'm excited to see what they do with the second season.
Okay. See, that's interesting to me. Like, I was not a fan, not that I wasn't a fan, I just didn't know anything about, like, One Piece, right? And never in a million years thought that I would be anywhere near One Piece. And I kept getting recommended One Piece. I'm like, fine, I'll do a watch along. And I love that show.
It's so fun.
I love that show.
It's such a good adaptation.
That's what I mean. From what everyone said, the fans that, and I still say this every time, I have been doing this pop culture thing and covering different IPs for a long time now. I have never seen a more welcoming, kind fan base than the One Piece fan base.
The Straw Hats are beautiful.
They're the
wonderful.
best. So many comments, because I told people, I don't know what the hell I'm watching here. And they were just like, oh, you're going to love this and that. Like, you idiot, you didn't know this.
Yes.
None of that shit.
And that's what fandom should be.
It was
should be
so great.
ingratiating. It should be all about, hey, you don't know this? How lucky, I can't wait to share it with you. That's the Amy Newman and I's podcast, the Two Filthy Casuals thing. That's all it is, hey, do you love something? Can you explain it to us? Because we don't know what it is.
They were so welcoming. I loved it.
Which is so great. And I love that because anime fans sometimes aren't welcoming.
Yeah.
I say this as somebody who's voiced anime, and I'd have people be like, you've never even seen a show, have you? I've done 12 series.
Right.
But also I have a thick Southern accent, so sorry if I get the names wrong sometimes.
It's hilarious. My friend actually is one of the voices, I think, in Avatar, actually. Yeah, Cricket Lee is let me see who she plays.
Oh my gosh.
So my friend Cricket actually plays May from so is that a big character?
That's a really fun character. Okay. That makes me very happy.
Yeah. So she'll probably be someone who comes on this show, especially when I move. She's hilarious. She's a good
Cricket, I'm going to have no chill.
I'll let her know. She's the best. Okay, so you guys are the best. Thanks for joining us here today. I really appreciate it for being on the show. And I want to thank Kris Carr. Kris, you told me about your podcast. Tell them about your podcast.
Oh my gosh, guys, I have a podcast with the amazing, the hilarious Amy Newman. It's called Two Philly Casuals. You can get wherever you get your podcasts. We bring on a super fan so that you can ask some questions and dip your toe into a fandom sans judgment, because gatekeeping in fandoms is really gross. You also right now can check me out in the game Marvel Move. It's a really fun fitness app where you're on a quest with Daredevil.
Yes.
And I'm Madam Mask in it. I'm a baddie, and it's really, really fun. So please check those things out. And then if you want to learn about voiceover, my husband Logan and I we have a studio called Speak Friends Studio, and we teach voiceover and dialect classes. So check out all those things.
That's awesome. And so you can get those on Spotify, Apple, all that stuff too.
The whole shebang.
Make sure you check it out. All right, guys. For me, as I said, you subscribe to the channel. You'll get all the stuff that we have. Don't forget about our WrestleMania preview special on Friday. Tomorrow is where people are asking, well, what about Capes and Cows? Well, tomorrow will be Capes and Cows. Mike, Steph, and Roxy and Brett off this week, but they will all be back next week. And yeah, so that's it, man. I'm going to see The Omen tonight, so I'll have an out of the theater reaction and a review of Omen tomorrow. You can find my full reaction for out of the theater reaction of Monkey Man with Winston. We did that together. And then I have my non-spoiler of Monkey Man up now. Civil War's next week. So we got tons of stuff as we're leading into May, which is just going to be nuts. All right. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Kris. Thanks to you guys. Bye.